The time is finally here. Welcome into Texans on Tap, episode 1 of season 2. I'm Brandon Strange, joined by Charlie Palillo and Josh Jordan. You can read Charlie's column weekly on sportsmap.com. Follow him on X at Palillo. Read Josh's work daily on sportsmap.com. Follow him on X at Josh Jordan 975. For everybody that's here live with us, staying up late, we'd appreciate if you click live on the video, click like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so that you join us for what we hope to be an exciting, productive 2024 Texans season. Gents, it was a Hall of Fame game with all kinds of Houston shout-outs, with the inductee, Andre Johnson himself, to Simone Biles, and most importantly of all, Mojo from the Oilers got a shout-out on this game. So pretty cool. Shout out to everybody watching us live. It was a pretty lackluster end to a entertaining game that started out entertaining, and they got sloppy, both figuratively and literally at the end. We're going to react to some of the stuff that we saw on the field that's relevant to the season. Just want to get a quick reaction from you guys on your thoughts on the new kickoff rules that we saw in game 1 on Thursday.
Yeah, the first guinea pigs in putting this into application, and this is not a preseason experiment for anyone not up to speed. This is how the regular season will be played. It looks gimmicky to me. It looks XFL-ish, UFL-ish, whatever you want to call it, but that's where they cribbed the idea from. With the touchbacks being at like an 80% rate in recent years, right? The goal to reduce injuries on special teams play, but wanting the excitement of kickoff returns, right? The overreaction with the kickoff from the 35, it's just too easy for too many kickers to put it through the end zone. Touchbacks were to the 25-yard line. So with the new rule, and discuss the alignment to the extent we choose to, there figured to be more returns because I think that there will be kickers who become adept at lofting 9-irons, higher kicks that are fielded between the 5 and 10-yard line. This game, I mean, talk about small sample size, but no returners were pinned inside the 20. So a buddy of mine texted thinking, if you're never going to pin the guy deep, just kick it for the touchback, which now will be moved to the 30-yard line touchbacks. A pooch kick that is too pooched, if it's fielded before the 20-yard line, that gets spotted at the 40-yard line. So, I'm mixed on it. Conceding an opposing possession starting at the 30, right? That's generally considered good field position. But if you're rarely going to tackle the guy inside the 20, much less the 15-yard line. So, over the preseason, everyone will crunch the numbers. But the early thought is the number of kickoff returns, the percentage of kickoff returns, is going to well more than double this season.
I'm interested to see as this goes along and we get more accustomed to it, are we going to be really excited to watch the kickoffs like we were tonight, just because we were curious what it was going to look like? As the season goes along and we get used to it, are we still going to run to the fridge or have a bathroom break during the kickoffs, or is it really going to make the game more exciting and you see more big plays? So I'm kind of I'm holding tight. I'm holding my judgment. I want to see a little bit more, see a bigger sample size to kind of get a feel for it. But overall, it was okay. But, it didn't wow me or anything tonight, just that it was new and different. So we'll see. But it will change roster building, and, guys that can return kicks are going to have more value on teams. So there's that aspect as well.
Right. From a Houston perspective, Andre Johnson headlines this Hall of Fame class, which is a stout class. Julius Peppers and Dwight Freeney taken in the same draft in which the Texans selected David Carr. But I digress. But also in this class, Devin Hester, right? One of the great return men, maybe the greatest return man of all time. Sorry, Dion. But the role of kickoff returner has greatly diminished in recent years. So if you're trying to bring that back, and the importance, as Josh mentions, of roster making decisions, of having a kickoff returner with some real giddy up, or will teams settle into, we'll just kick it deep and give it to them at the 30-yard line? Or will the threat of a real quality kickoff returner somewhat return to the NFL?
Well, on offense, we saw some plays from some guys that we'll see probably limited spurts on the field, guys like Xavier Hutchinson, Dario Ngumbawale, Cam Akers. But obviously, all eyes will be on Houston's deep receiving core once the games get really started meaningfully when the season gets going. What did you see from some of these guys that'll be depth guys? Anything that sticks out to you, either on the play on the field or play calling?
Really nothing dramatic, and this was barely a JV game, right? No starters ostensibly played either way. I'm sure the ABC and ESPN's delight, right? CJ Stroud, 0. The Bears rookie Caleb Williams, 0, but that's sensible if you're the teams. And this has nothing to do with, hey, the Texans and Bears play week 2 of the regular season. Who wants to show their hand? No, this was about, it's the first of 4 preseason games for these two. You encase in bubble wrap anyone who you think is going to really matter. In the Texans wide receiver pecking order, you have Nico Collins and Diggs, obviously, as the top 2. Healthy Tank Dell as number 3. You're going to carry 5, maybe 6 pending special teams contribution. Right? John Mechie, really not much of a factor, though he got real run because he has to make this team. It's not an absolute lock, though. I think year 2 off of leukemia, he's pretty safe. But then you have Ben Skoranek, who is a special teams guy. I think he's highly likely to make the team, the guy that Nick Caserio signed away from the Rams. So that gets you to 5 in a hurry. Then you have the veteran Robert Woods, who'd also be a cap savings guy, if not necessarily for 2024, but for 2025. You peel his $4.5 million off the books. You mentioned Hutchinson. So the battle is there for the last spot or 2 on the roster. I think Steven Sims, he's that kickoff return threat, much more so than as a wide receiver to make the team. So how many will they keep at the position is question 1.
For me, I think we learned quite a bit tonight. So I have the wide receiver snap count for the first half, which is when most of these guys were playing. So Mechie with 32 snaps, Hutchinson with 26, Ben Skoranek with 22, Steven Sims with 14. So that all sounds pretty reasonable, right? Most of those guys were on the field for most of the first half. But then look at Mechie's stat line: 1 catch for 4 yards. And we look at some of the other, Hutchinson, 5 catches for 56 yards, and Skoranek 3 for 28. So for John Mechie, that didn't look too good. I don't know if I'd have to go back and rewatch. Was he not getting open? Were the targets just not there? But as a guy that we were really hoping would take that next step, we really didn't see it from him there. Also, at tight end, Cade Stover had 32 snaps in the first half. Tegan Kuteriano had 9. He got banged up. It looked like a lower leg injury, Aaron Wilson was reporting. So he left the game for a bit. Something to keep an eye on there. Nice to see that Stover made some plays out of a rookie, and Kuteriano had the touchdown, of course. And just finally, I thought Cam Akers at running back really looked good. He showed some juice, made some guys miss, caught the ball out of the backfield. And a guy coming off 2 Achilles tears, he didn't really look like that. So, maybe he can give you something this year. We know Joe Mixon's a little banged up right now with the quad. Damian Pierce didn't play tonight. They didn't want to risk him, but you wonder if, Ogunbowale played as well. We've seen him before. Maybe he makes the roster, but I wonder if Cam Akers could make this football team.
Yeah, Ogunbowale plays special teams. Akers probably not, so he needs to show burst because they're unlikely to carry 4 running backs plus the fullback Andrew Beck.
What do you think we see out of Damian Pierce this season? Because he was a little embattled last season. Is there possible we see a bounce back year from him? The guy had year before looked really good and just took a real big step backwards last season. Your thoughts on Damian?
Yeah, he's a potential bubble guy. Does have kickoff returner also on his resume, which could be a difference maker. What Akers shows is very important. And mentioned Ogunbowale plays special teams. Pierce as a return man, that very specialist of special teams, and has talked about, hey, if kickoff returning is returning to the game as a factor this year, and Sims is not going to be that guy, or he's more focused on punt returns. It was a brutal second season for Pierce, obviously, and Devin Singletary ate his lunch. How much of a 3-down back do they intend to use Joe Mixon, right? Who's an accomplished pass catcher as well, but he's not an elite running back. So I would think also, as he's closer to 30 now than 25, you'd probably want to save some tread wear on his tires over the course of the season. Not that Cam Akers becomes your full-time 3rd down pass catching back, but Akers catching one for a touchdown, night one of the preseason, it's something, and good for him, right? Making it back from 2 Achilles tears. I mean, that's like the Brazilian gymnast coming back from 3 ACL tears in 4 years, Rebecca Andrade, to finish second to Simone Biles. That should feel like a goal to her. I don't know if it feels like a goal for Cam Akers in game 1 of the preseason, but just to have a game where, hey, I'm healthy and I can still play.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I was a big fan of Pierce that first year, but it just the system fit. It sounds like wasn't a great fit for him, changing over to Slowick's offense. So maybe after another offseason of getting used to it, we can see something from Dameon Pierce. I'd like to see more passes go to running backs this time around. I think they only threw 51. I think there were 51 catches total out of the Texans' backfield last season. I think Mixon had 51 just by himself in Cincinnati, and very often he didn't play on third down that much. Cincinnati liked to throw to their running backs on early downs. So that's something I like to see CJ Stroud kind of take the next step. And if you can just toss that little check down to the running back, let him work for you, go pick you up 10 yards. I'd like to see him throw the ball more to Pierce, but it's make it or break it time for him. I mean, they went and got Joe Mixon, so that tells you what they think. We know that Saquon Barkley, they were after him, according to reports. It just didn't go their way. He went to the Eagles. So obviously the Texans saw a need to upgrade at running back. Just as far as the halftime snap count for the running backs, Agumbawale had 14, Cam Akers had 13, and JJ Taylor had 10. So Agumbawale and JJ Taylor were on the first 2 drives only. Akers played on the 3rd and 5th drive. So just kind of an idea how they mixed it up here in this first game.
Yeah, what a boon it would be for Houston if Pierce could have a meaningful bounce back season to where they could have a 2-headed monster headed by Mixon and Pierce. That would be really, really advantageous for their offense. Just a quick programming note. Our plan for everybody watching, our plan is to be reacting live after every game for the preseason and regular season this season. So that's something new for us. So we invite you to make sure you're subscribed to the channel. So that way you're joining us. Again, we're going to be doing live reactions. If you can't catch us live, obviously the videos are always on demand here. And if you prefer listening to your podcasts, we're on every podcast app like Apple and Spotify. So let's get back to the real meat here. So going back to last year, we saw the defense notoriously play some soft coverages in the pass game, get carved up on the ground game. The second and third team on Thursday's game looked familiar. It looked like a lot of the things that we saw last year. We also haven't really talked about Danico Autry's suspension for banned substance. He'll miss the first 6 games of the season. So I guess give me your thoughts on what you expect to see either this different out of this defense to prevent some of those getting carved up on the ground. And then do you think on Autry specifically, do you think the Texans' easier first half of the schedule will help offset missing that lack of depth?
Well, the loss of Danico Autry it's foremost a bummer and disappointing, as we virtually always hear. I had no idea. My body is a temple, but I had no idea of the substance. My pharmacist did me wrong. The supply store did me well. Whatever. It's a 6-game suspension. That's a blow, right? One of the huge defensive acquisitions of the offseason. Silver lining: Danico Autry's 34 years old, so a 6-game unpaid vacation to start his season. He better be damn well fresh and ready to roll when game 7 gets here, an 11-game regular season plus, hopefully, presumably, playoffs. But it's a downer, no doubt about it. The second and third team defense results, I don't care. It's mostly guys who aren't going to make the team. But in Autry's absence, right, it thins the rotation in that defensive line. But headlined by Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, they should still be pretty good. Al Shire, you hope, anchors a linebacking core with Christian Harris back. Who's going to be the second corner opposite Stingley Jr., right? Is Jimmy Ward going to be healthy to play a safety spot? Kalen Bullock with a forced fumble for the Texans in the opener against the Bears. I'd really like to see him push for real playing time at safety. And how's Jalen Petrie going to play back there after a very disappointing sophomore season? And to round out the secondary, Kamari Lassiter, I hope, I'm sure the Texans hope is their first draft choice, second rounder, but their first draft choice wins the job over Jeffrey Okudah, CJ Henderson, anyone else you want to throw in there. Remember, Steven Nelson played the most defensive snaps on the Texans last season and played very credible corner. So that's a spot to fill. But the guys who are playing tonight generally aren't going to be the ones asked to fill those positions. But the Autry stuff, it's shame on him. And I guess we'll give him the benefit of the doubt on I had no idea, but we've heard that tune a whole lot from a whole lot of players, a whole lot of teams. Let me just throw in as a rider to that. He's gone for 6 games, and that stinks. But the Colts, the Texans see week 1, Samson Ekebom, 9.5 sacks last season, blown Achilles. He's gone for the season. So that's much bigger a loss for the Colts than 6 games of absence for Autry is to the Texans.
Yeah, it's a bummer. You're gonna have to rely more on your other guys to rush the passer. That's what Autry really brought. You can move him inside, outside. So, but you still got Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson and Barnett. You have some guys in there that can rush the passer, and we knew D tackle would be kind of up and down this year anyway. And we don't know how much D tackle Autry was going to play because we haven't seen it yet. So it's unfortunate. But Charlie mentioned he's an older player. I believe he returns week 7 against the Packers. So that's a big matchup going against Jordan Love. It'll be nice to have him back, presumed to be fresh. So it's unfortunate, but you have to move on. Luckily, this team has a lot of talent on that side of the ball. And as far as Lassiter, yeah, it looks like he's going to be your starting corner, your number 2 corner there. So it looks like the drafts have been pretty darn good the last couple of years when we look at, of course you expect it with Anderson and Stroud, they were drafted so high, but to nail a second round corner like that, good job by, so far we haven't seen him play a real game, but the fact that he's out there looking good in practice, covering guys like Diggs, and they like him enough to have him that high on the depth chart, that's a very good sign. So we'll see. It's D'Amico's defense. He got to kind of handpick his guys after another year. They need to take another step forward.
Yeah, Autry's a major loss because in pass rushing situations, he's definitely playing inside with Anderson and Hunter on the outside. So, ideally, he's raising holy hell, pushing the pocket from the interior, and then you have Anderson and Hunter just foaming at the mouth on the outside. And, hey, games 1 and 2, the Texans are facing very mobile quarterbacks. Newbies, right? Anthony Richardson's rookie season cut very short. But then Caleb Williams in week 2. So while they're not accomplished NFL quarterbacks, stylistically, they're certainly guys you'd like to have all your 18 pass rushers against. Alas, the Texans will not.
And D'Amico likes to rotate these pass rushers. Hunter and Will Anderson aren't going to play every snap of the game. So it is unfortunate not to have Autry to have an extra fresh guy in passing situations. So the good news is he's coming back. It's not for the whole season.
Yeah, and the good news is he should be fresh because he'll have missed 6 games. So maybe he'll be good and rested for the second half campaign. I'm sympathetic personally to Autry because I'm pretty sure my Chipotle tonight was laced with HGH or a ton of carbs, one or the other, but I'm definitely seeing gains. So Harley asks, what about a JJ Watt return? Obviously, JJ said during the offseason this was going to be his last year, that he was going to stay in shape. And he, famously told D'Amico, if you need me, I'll be there. Do you think the bat phone rings for JJ Watt this season?
No. He's a full-timer now on the NFL Today with CBS. And obviously, it's not as if JJ Watt's just sitting around drinking donuts or eating donuts and drinking. Well, he is drinking a lot of that light beer. I guess they're paying him enough to do commercials. But his training is not NFL training. Could he ramp up? I imagine. But I would think that actually wouldn't happen until later in the season. If the Texans are looking like a real Super Bowl challenger to the Chiefs out of the AFC, and heaven forbid, week 12, week 13, they lose a key guy from the pass rush, then maybe JJ Watt can ride in as a superhero in hope anyway. But as a season-long type proposition, no chance.
Yeah, if it's going to happen, JJ wants to do that just a short burst at the end of the season. So
you're like when Roger Clemens was back in June or July,
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing it. And I think
No.
it'd be a really cool way to see him go out, for whatever the case, even if it's just in limited usage. It kind of feels like JJ wants the phone to ring. I don't feel like if he didn't want to, I don't think he would have put it out there the way he's put it out there. But, again, we all said it's very unlikely to happen. So
He
let's
also did
end on.
retire in part because of a heart condition. So I think it's a real fun idea and closure and come full circle, especially if the Texans really have a shot. But it would be a surprise. It'd be a fun surprise, but a real surprise.
Well, if the Texans get deep in the playoffs, we're all going to have heart conditions here in Houston because we're not used to it. Let's end on this. NFL.com has posted their top 100 players. CJ Stroud comes in at number 20. He's behind guys like Dak Prescott at number 16. What are your thoughts on the early rankings from NFL.com?
Yeah, I'm mixed. And Friday night is the top 10. In it, Patrick Mahomes, number 1, I presume, and Lamar Jackson. They're the two quarterbacks who absolutely should rank ahead of CJ Stroud coming into the season. If Stroud makes a move on Lamar Jackson this year, well, then prepare for those heart conditions, Brandon. Dak was the runner-up for NFL MVP the last season. So it's not as if it's preposterous. There's regular, it's a little bit like Aaron Judge versus Yordan Alvarez. There's regular season Dak, and then there's playoff Dak. As there's regular season Aaron Judge, and then there's been postseason Aaron Dud or Drudge or Sludge. Back to football. That Stroud falls behind Jalen Hurts as well. I'd certainly rather have CJ Stroud, thrower of the football, coming into this season than Jalen Hurts, but that's not a matter of disrespect. And Josh Allen is the other quarterback ahead of him. Allen's body of work with the Bills is just tremendous. So I think it's a very reasonable and phenomenal slotting for CJ Stroud off his rookie season as the 20th best player in the NFL. And this is a vote among the players for the NFL.com list. Stroud, the highest of 4 Texans who make the top 100. Stephon Diggs, second. Laramie Tunsil in there. And who am I forgetting as the 4th?
Stingley, maybe?
I jotted it down somewhere. Daniil Hunter, actually ahead of Tunsil on the list.
Interesting. Stingley's a guy I'd be surprised if he didn't make the list, but he did miss a lot of time this past season, but he was fabulous when he played. As far as CJ, it's 1 year, go do it again. But I think that's pretty respectful, giving him number 20 after just 1 season. But it was a hell of a season, winning Rookie of the Year. So, go out, prove it again. Dak Prescott's been around for a long time, and Charlie's right, hadn't been great in the playoffs, but part of it is a popularity contest. People always know who the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys is. So, hey, CJ, go out there and have another amazing season, and maybe you'll be in the top 5 after this year.
And length of service and stacking up years impacts this type of stuff. And it's a player's vote. I don't know how many players follow the league closely other than the team they're preparing for in a given week. But from a Texans perspective, if somehow the league decreed horribly unfairly, you can only have one of them this season, Stephon Diggs or Nico Collins. Nico Collins was the better football player, I thought, last year pretty clearly, the way Diggs faded. But Stephon Diggs has 5 years of body of work of very, very high quality. So if Nico Collins and Will Anderson take this to be as insulting and fires them up to have even huger 2024, is all the better for the Texans.
Well, that's going to be it for this episode of Texans on Tap. We appreciate everyone who stayed up with us late. We'll be live again next Friday, week 1, officially week 1 of the preseason against the Steelers. So we invite you to join us again then. Also, you mentioned some baseball. If you are a Astros fan, the 3 of us host a weekly Astros podcast. Stone Cold Stros, almost forgot the podcast, or almost forgot the podcast name there. So Stone Cold Stros airs weekly. You can subscribe to that on the Sports Map Houston channel, or find that on any of your favorite podcast providers. For Charlie and Josh, I'm Brandon. Thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you all season long right here on this channel for Texas on Tap. Until next time, Go Texans.